In the year 1552, a single battle changed the destiny of Eastern Europe forever. An empire born from the ashes of Genghis Khan, feared for centuries, stood on the edge of extinction. And standing against it was one man, feared by his enemies, hated by many, and remembered by history as Ivan the Terrible. Before we dive into this brutal clash that ended Mongol rule forever, take a moment. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because stories like this reveal how empires rise, and how they are violently destroyed. This is not just a battle. This is the story of how the last Mongol Empire fell, how the city of Kazan burned, and how Russia was forged through blood, steel, and fire. For more than 3 centuries, the Mongols ruled the Eurasian world with an iron fist. Their armies moved like storms, fast, merciless, unstoppable. Cities that resisted were erased from existence, and kingdoms that bowed survived only as vassals. Even after the great Mongol Empire fractured, its legacy lived on through powerful successor states. One of the most formidable of these was the Kazan Khanate. Kazan was not just another city. It was the political and spiritual heir of the Golden Horde, a Mongol state that had once dominated Russia. Situated along the Volga River, Kazan controlled vital trade routes connecting Europe to Central Asia. Silk, furs, weapons, and slaves passed through its markets, making it wealthy and dangerous. To the rising Russian state, Kazan was more than a neighbor. It was a constant threat. For generations, Mongol raiders from Kazan attacked Russian lands, burning villages, capturing civilians, and selling them into slavery. Moscow paid tribute for years, forced to kneel before Mongol Khans. Though the Mongols were no longer united, their dominance still shaped Russian politics, culture, and fear. By the mid-16th century, however, the balance of power was shifting. Moscow was no longer a weak principality. Under Ivan IV, it was becoming a centralized state with ambitions of empire. Ivan was crowned the first Tsar of all Russia in 1547, a declaration that Moscow no longer recognized Mongol superiority. But titles alone could not erase centuries of humiliation. Kazan remained a dagger pointed at Russia's heart. Its rulers played Russian factions against each other, supported rebellions, and openly defied Moscow. As long as Kazan stood, Russia could never be secure. Ivan understood this better than anyone. To him, Kazan was not just an enemy, it was a symbol. A symbol of Mongol dominance. A symbol of Russia's past weakness. And a symbol that had to be destroyed. But conquering Kazan would not be easy. The city was protected by thick wooden walls reinforced with earthworks. Its defenders were experienced warriors, Tatars, Nogais, and mercenaries hardened by decades of warfare. The terrain favored the defenders, and previous Russian campaigns against Kazan had failed miserably. Yet Ivan was determined. He spent years preparing. He modernized the Russian army, introduced artillery, built new fortresses, and trained professional infantry units known as the Streltsy. For the first time, Russia was fighting with gunpowder, not just faith and swords. By 1552, Ivan was ready. And the Mongol world did not yet realize that this campaign would be its last stand. In the summer of 1552, Ivan the Terrible marched east with an army unlike anything Russia had ever assembled. Estimates vary, but historians believe over 150,000 men took part in the campaign. Infantry, cavalry, engineers, and artillery units advanced together in a carefully coordinated operation. This was not a raid. This was total war. Ivan personally commanded the army, a rare and dangerous move for a ruler. But Ivan believed that fate itself had chosen him to end Mongol rule. Along the march, priests blessed the troops, banners bearing orthodox icons flew high, and sermons declared the campaign a holy mission. When the Russian army reached Kazan, they did not immediately attack. Instead, Ivan ordered the construction of Svyazhsk, a massive wooden fortress assembled miles away and transported piece by piece to the battlefield. It shocked the defenders. Never before had they seen such logistical mastery. This fortress became the staging ground for the siege. Then the bombardment began. Russian cannons roared day and night, pounding Kazan's walls. The sound echoed across the Volga, shaking the city's foundations. Inside, panic spread. Food supplies dwindled. Disease followed. Mongol cavalry, once masters of open-field warfare, were useless against artillery and fortifications. Ivan's engineers dug tunnels beneath the walls, packing them with explosives. When the mines detonated, entire sections of Kazan's defenses collapsed. Each explosion brought the city closer to annihilation. Yet the defenders fought with desperation. Every breach was met with fierce resistance. Street by street, building by building, Kazan became a slaughterhouse. Blood filled the alleys. Smoke darkened the sky. The screams of civilians mixed with the clash of steel. Ivan showed no mercy. He ordered relentless assaults, knowing that exhaustion and terror would eventually break the city's will. Unlike earlier Russian rulers, he did not negotiate. He did not compromise. This was a war of extinction. On October 2, 1552, the final assault began. Russian forces stormed the shattered walls. The defenders were overwhelmed. By nightfall, Kazan had fallen. What followed was catastrophic. Thousands were killed. The Khanate's leadership was wiped out. Mosques were destroyed. Survivors were enslaved or forcibly converted. The city that had once symbolized Mongol power was reduced to ruins. The last major Mongol stronghold in Eastern Europe was gone. For the first time since the Mongol invasions of the 13th century, Russia was free from Mongol dominance. The psychological impact was immense. The fear that had haunted Russian lands for generations was finally shattered. Ivan the Terrible emerged not just as a conqueror, but as a symbol of a new era. With Kazan destroyed, Russia gained control of the Volga River, opening vast territories to expansion. Soon after, Ivan would conquer Astrakhan, pushing Russian borders deeper into former Mongol lands. The road to Siberia was now open. But victory came at a terrible cost. Ivan's brutality during the siege foreshadowed his later reign of terror. The same ruthlessness he unleashed on Kazan would later be turned inward, against his own people. Mass executions, paranoia, and the infamous Oprichnina would define his legacy. History would remember him as both a nation-builder and a monster. Yet one truth remains undeniable. The Battle of Kazan ended Mongol rule forever. The empire born from Genghis Khan's conquests, which had once terrified the world, was finally extinguished, not by another nomadic horde, but by a rising gunpowder state. From the ashes of Kazan rose a new power, the Russian Empire. And in that moment, the balance of Eurasian history shifted forever.